Good evening to all of our families and staff who might be joining us from home. We are so very glad that you are here tonight. My name is Lori Putnam. I'm the Assistant Superintendent for our secondary schools here with St. Cloud Area Schools, and we have a variety of folks who have joined us. So I will ask them to introduce themselves briefly as I call your name. Principal Heitkamp.
Hi, my name is Joel Heitkamp, new principal at South Junior High.
AP Lanning. We can't hear you. Okay. We'll come back to you.
Oh. I'm right here. Andy Laning, assistant principal, South, sorry.
No problem. Thank you. Principal Nutter.
Good evening, 742 families. My name is Brian Nutter. I'm the principal at North Junior High.
Thank you. AP Ebnet.
Hi, everybody. Heather Ebnet, assistant principal, North Junior High. Soar Eagles.
And Heather, you are also supporting our Distance Learning Academy. Do you want to say briefly about that?
Sure. I am working on getting everything up and running for our K-12 Distance Learning Academy in addition to my AP role at North this year.
Thank you so much. And we have Tammy DeLand. Tammy?
Hi, I am the Director of Communications, and I will be moderating this evening.
Thank you. Adam Holm.
Good evening, Adam Holm, Executive Director of Community Education.
And Lori Posh.
Good evening, everyone. Lori Posh, Executive Director of Learning and Teaching. Thanks for being with us.
And also behind the scenes, we have Ryan Cox, who is our Director of Technology. And so I appreciate very much that all of you are here supporting our efforts to make sure our families are informed and as excited as we are about our return to school. So this evening, we've put together a presentation based on some of the questions that we have received to try to give an overview of what you can expect. And then Tammy will be moderating the chat feature where you're submitting your questions through the online form. And that form is available either in the Skylar that I sent or available on our website. And you can certainly ask us questions throughout. And Tammy will either interject with the questions as they might be applicable, or we will answer those at the end. And then you'll hear from all of the experts that are here joining us tonight about what you can expect at our middle schools. So to get started, this is our school start times for all of our buildings that are serving secondary schools. So you'll see Kennedy and our District Learning Academy that we know are serving either K-8 or K-12. But you can see that all of our schools are here. Our high schools, our middle schools and our high schools are starting at 9 o'clock and for our students and ending at 3:45. And the reason we needed to make this change was because we needed some time to clean our buses. We, as you may know, we have a tier 1 run that starts early. I think my kids are getting on the bus at 6:45, so it starts early, drops kids off at school for them to start at 7:30 at the elementaries. Those buses then need to be fully sanitized before they come back and pick up our secondary students. Our secondary students will be picked up at their bus stops as typical. They will board they will file and fill from the back front so that we're requiring as few mixings of air and passings as possible, and then they will disembark from front to back. So we're being really thoughtful about how we are moving our students throughout the year and as we're trying to develop these new routines. This is an image you're seeing of a middle level schedule, and I am going to ask Principal Heitkamp if he would walk us through what to expect.
So some of the feedback we got in the spring was that managing 6 or 7 classes every day was very difficult. And so to manage some of that for our students and help pare some of that workload down, we moved to more of a block schedule. And so you'll see during a given day, a student's going to have advisory every morning. We felt as a middle level that it was important for students to check in with a common teacher every day. Also throughout advisory, we're going to implement some of our social emotional learning and some organizational skills with our students. On Mondays and Tuesdays, students will have periods 1, 2, and 3. One of those days being in person if you're an A-day student, and one of those being virtually on the opposite day, on Tuesday. And if you're a B-day student, Monday would be a virtual day, and Tuesday would be an in-person day. After those 2 days, essentially the students have completed all of the work for their period 1, 2, and 3 classes, and then they can focus on periods 4, 5, and 6 on Wednesday and Thursday. The other piece that's not listed there that's important to note is our PE and music rotation. And typically that rotation is on an every other day to ensure that students get to see their teachers in person each week. We're going to rotate our musics and our phy-eds on an every other week. So when we start school that first week, it will be a day 1 week, and every music and phy-ed teacher will only see their day 1 students that week. The opposite week, then a student would rotate. So a student would essentially have music for a week and then phy-ed for a week and rotate like that throughout the course of the year. As you can see as well, on Fridays, that's our win day. That's our opportunity for students to get what they need from teachers, extra support, answer questions, and even some extra collaboration to get things done from classes earlier on in the week.
Thank you very much. And then we have our high school schedule that we will skip over, though if any of you have high school students, we welcome you back at 6:15. Oops, sorry. So taking a look at our morning routines, we wanted to walk families through from the beginning of their day to as soon as before you even leave your house, what do you need to be thinking about? As we know that our goal is to keep our students in-person learning for as long as possible. And to do that, we are going to have to take collective responsibility as students, as families, and as staff for keeping all of us healthy and safe. So before students even leave the house to get on the bus or to drive or ride to school, we are asking that families do a symptom screening. There's a form that will be available in Skyward that we're asking secondary students to actually complete. It's very simple. It just says, walks through a couple of the screening questions for symptoms of COVID-19. And then we're also asking families if they can to take a temperature before students arrive at school. Any temperature of over 100.4 or over, we would ask that students stay home. And of course, if there are symptoms that were combined with COVID, then that would be a great time to partner with your physician or your healthcare professional. We talked a little bit about bus expectations. And some people have asked us, so why aren't we screening before families even get on the bus or before students even get on the bus? We talked a lot about that and decided that while there was some good cause to potentially screen for fevers or temperatures before we get on the bus. The reality is that as soon as students leave your house and arrive at our bus stops, we take ownership and responsibility for their health and their safety. And if we were to screen a student at the bus for a temperature, the student had a temperature, we would either need to hold the bus until we get a hold of a family member to let you know that we were sending the student home, or potentially we would be sending a student home without a family knowing, and we would feel really, we would be responsible and would feel really uneasy about that, particularly for our middle level students. So what we will be doing is, as I said, we'll load the bus very carefully. If you've been on a bus lately, you know that they're not particularly hermetically sealed. There is some air that comes in and out of those windows to provide some ventilation. And then we'll be, of course, asking students to have their mask on. And in fact, not just asking, but expecting. And we'll talk a little bit more about masks later on. When students arrive at school, we will be doing temperature checks. So as students exit the bus, somebody will be screening for fever or for temperatures there for our walkers and our riders. We will also be screening. Depending on the school, there will be different doors. And would either of our principals like to talk through a little bit about not necessarily which doors you'll be using unless you have that ready, but just what can students expect when they arrive onto your campus in the morning?
Sure, I'll briefly go and just kind of describe what students might see and families might see as they arrive at North in the morning. So students that are arriving on the bus, we will see them being greeted with one of our staff members who will board the bus, take student temperatures as they exit from front to rear. And we will have two doors right off of our bus chute where students will be able to enter from buses so that we can keep buses and students separated to provide maximum social distance as possible. For our walkers and parent drop-off students, we'll have two doors where we would typically have door one at the main entrance to North. Just prior to arriving to door one, parents would normally pass door two. That will also be available and open for our walkers and drop-off. Drop-off families will be met at the curb where a staff member with a thermometer will do a temperature check. And then students will enter right through those doors. Walkers at those same doors will also be greeted with a staff member and a thermometer where they will have their temperature taken and they'll be able to enter those doors. Upon entering the building, students will see that we have new traffic flow patterns. So we will have one-way hallways and one-way staircases. For those students that are eating breakfast in the morning, the first thing they will do is they will hop on the one-way path and proceed to the cafeteria to eat breakfast. And once they exit the cafeteria, they will hop back on the one-way flow and proceed immediately to their advisory class. Those students who don't eat breakfast at school, as soon as they enter, they will go right to their advisory class. And when we say they're going to go right to class, we mean they're going to go right to class. Because we are doing lockers differently this year. Only those students that are specifically requesting and needing a locker will be issued a locker. We're doing that to provide social distance in the hallways and at lockers. So the majority of our students will carry backpacks and their personal belongings will be carried with them throughout the day in their backpack. There may be concerns initially over, wow, my student's going to have to carry a lot of personal belongings, jackets, books, things like that. Some of that will be alleviated because they will only be taking 3 courses per day versus the 7 we would have typically had in a normal school year. So we do ask for your patience with that, and we do understand that some students will want and need a locker, and they will still be available, and we'll be social distancing those approximately 1 every 6 lockers, and then on a rotational basis by day, A and B. So I think at North what that means, and it'll probably be similar at South, is we will have probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 250 to 400 lockers available for our entire student population. So there just won't be enough for everyone. So we're hoping that, like Apollo has done for a few years now, is students will only get a locker if they want one. Did I miss anything, Joel?
No, that sounds great. I was waiting for you to say that North also implemented the one-way, the movable sidewalks like you see in an airport. So it sounds like you've got her covered. And families at South will see a very similar format. The one thing I would share is that our door numbers are just a little different. Buses would enter doors 1 and 2. Our parent drop-off will happen at door number 7 on the north side of the building, and our walkers will enter door number 5 right by the tennis courts. And again, greeted by staff members ready for checks, and breakfast will be ready in the cafeteria, and students will make their way to advisory upon entry.
One thing that we're going to be asking for our families' help with is, really planning students' arrival to school carefully. We know that there's a lot of demands on families' time in the morning, and in the past years, sometimes students would arrive to school even before staff arrived, and before our doors were able to open. And in inclement weather, on rainy days or cold days, sometimes our students would come into the entryway, into the foyers, and crowd in together. And we just know that that's not safe any longer. And so we are asking families to be sure that students aren't entering the building before the doors open. Middle school principals, what time do you expect that it would be safe for our students to begin to arrive once the doors will be opening?
We're anticipating at South Junior High around 8:30 is when the first buses would arrive, and that's when staff would be available in their classrooms, ready to welcome and greet students in the morning.
And it'll be similar at North. We will plan to open when the first bus is due to arrive. And so we'll put that time out to families. So those that are walking and parent pickup will also know what time it is. We don't want to commit to 8:30 and then the first bus doesn't show up until 8:40 because that just gives us another 30 minutes of people moving around the building and more opportunity for students to mix without being appropriately social distanced.
Lori, do you want some lifetime questions right now that are on this topic?
Absolutely, would love it.
Okay, if either of the principals could talk about passing times and can you be more specific about what that'll look like? Is it staggered?
I'll take a first crack, and then Mr. Nutter, feel free to jump in. At this point, passing time is a little longer than typical at 5 minutes. With the one-way hallways, we're going to try to allow students to pass in that 5 minutes to get to where they need to go. Having much fewer students in the building at any one time, we're anticipating at South no more than about 375 students in the building on a given day, spread out amongst all of our space. We're not super concerned about congestion in the hallway with the also implementing the one-way traffic and one-way stairwells, as Brian had mentioned at North. We're planning the same here at South, and so we're feeling like the 5 minute passing time is going to allow kids to get to where they need to be, and without stopping at lockers. And we're not using the restrooms during passing time. Students will be allowed to use restrooms during class. That allows us to control, again, traffic flow and number of students in restrooms. We're asking students to go right to and from class, and then we'll take care of needs once the bell rings and students are in classrooms again.
Thank you. And then in regard to the schedule itself that was posted, one question said, that was hard to see. So when will we get it? Will it be posted on the website? Is it coming to my house?
I believe South families have already received it, and North families are due to receive it tomorrow in a newsletter. And so I'll send out the North newsletter both by Skylert with a link to the newsletter, and then it's also available on our school website. And I will, in the first newsletter that comes out tomorrow, provide parents just a little direction on how they can subscribe to our school newsletter so that once we publish it on our website, you'll just automatically be notified that there's a new newsletter there for you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Tammy, thank you for moderating, and please feel free to stop us at any point.
Okay.
Switch back over. All right, now we're going to talk a little bit about learning expectations. So I'm going to be looking to my colleague Lori Posch to support some of these questions. First, I want to talk a little bit about the AB Flex schedule. As you heard from Superintendent Jett in his communication to you, and if you get to watch the board meeting last night, we have decided to go with an AB Flex. So that means students will be attending either Monday, Wednesday, or Tuesday, Thursday, and then Friday is distance learning. The assignments are A through K last names, and then L through Z. So A through K will attend Monday, Wednesday, and L through Z will attend a Tuesday, Thursday. We know that there are siblings in the same household with different last names, and our school counselors are doing an amazing job in making sure that they're coordinating those schedules so that siblings across K-12 can come to school on the same day. That to do that requires balancing class lists as well as transportation routes. So it's a tricky process. And while they're working as hard as they can, most likely it'll still be about another week or so before you're able to know we'll be sending out those assignments. So we very much appreciate your patience. We've heard from families wanting to know why AB. Other districts are doing AABB, AA Flex BB. And so we wanted to just tell you a little bit about why we chose that model. In talking with our teachers, they actually asked for to see all of their students, whether it's AABB or ABAB, before their Flex Day. That allowed them to understand which concepts students might not have grasped entirely, or to understand which students what small groups or individuals they need to pull on Friday, so that they can ensure students have mastery of the content or can provide some enrichment. And by seeing their students Monday through Thursday, and then having that opportunity, instead of only seeing half of them Monday, Tuesday, having their flex day and then seeing the other half Thursday, Friday, it would require an entire week before they could circle back to those B students. And so the instructional benefits in our perspective for our students and our teachers weighed more heavily to do the flex day on Friday. And then in terms of safety, we like the A-B structure because it gives us a full 24 hours to be able to contact, trace, and notify families in the event of a known exposure of COVID-19. We will be cleaning every night. So we don't need to worry about germs being carried over, and let's keep the AAs together because then the germs are the same. We are deep cleaning every night. So that is not going to be an issue for us. But this way, if a student was exposed on the A day, we can find out who they were in contact with and notify families over the course of that evening and the next day. Lori, would you talk a little bit? Oh, I'm sorry, Tammy, go ahead.
Before you move on, we're moving on to the next topic.
We're going to go to, yep.
Okay, before you move on, we have several Kennedy Middle School parents on as well. And so their question is, what about middle school at Kennedy? Does this look the same? Is the schedule the same? Could you address that?
Absolutely. And hi, Kennedy people. I miss you. And we're so glad that you're joining us tonight. Kennedy is following a similar schedule. And while they have fewer students, we still want to have all of the same safety precautions in place. So thank you very much for asking. As you saw, that one of the differences, of course, is that you guys start earlier. So, early mornings, but then I get out a little bit sooner.
And I don't know if you know this answer. There was a question about Kennedy's drop-off time.
I do not know that answer. I will see if I can find out though before the end of the hour.
Okay.
Thank you. Lori Post, would you please talk us through what families and students can expect on their in-person, their distance learning, their Flex Friday days?
Absolutely, and I would invite the principals to join in if they have anything to add for this. So we do have high expectations for our students, whether they are in a school building learning or whether they are at home learning. So we will, our teachers on the days that our students are in person, we'll be setting them up for the routines that they will need for when they're at home. So we do expect that as much as possible, our students follow the same schedule, whether they are in the building or they are at home. We know that there might be a few exceptions to that where they will work individually with the school about that at-home time. We do expect that our students log in if they are at home, and that kind of goes into that attendance piece. So attendance for the at-home days will happen during Schoology, and they will be logging into each of the class, and Schoology, our teachers will look at those Schoology accounts and the activities that are completed when they're at home. On Fridays, we will have some time in the morning for our students to check in. Brian and Joel, am I correct? They're doing that during advisory at the middle school on Fridays?
Yes, that is correct. We're going to hold advisory Friday morning.
So they will be, that part will be synchronous, or it will be at the same time when they will be checking in. And then there will be some time set aside where teachers can reach out to individual students for support. They can do some small group instruction, some enrichment, that going deeper with their learning. And then students will have some time to finish the assignments that they have from the day, to do additional work from the teachers, and to have some time for peer collaboration if they want. So again, our expectations are high. We know that learning does not have to just take place within a school building, but that it takes place wherever our students are.
Tammy, I was giving a little bit of wait time to see if there are questions that are coming in about those.
Not specific to those, unless you want to take on Distance Learning Academy right now. There are quite a few about that.
We have a whole slide coming up about that. Okay. Thank you.
That's kind of what I figured.
Thank you. All right. So we want to talk a little bit about health and safety. Principals, would you like to talk a little bit about mask expectations and how lunch will look? And then we can take some of the cleaning routines and the high contact, high exhalation courses.
Sure, I'll give it a quick start here on lunch, and then I'll let Brian jump in as well. Our students will enter the cafeterias. We have one-way entrances and one-way exits in our cafeteria, so a common traffic flow through the cafeteria. Students will be expected to wear a mask until they have their food and at their table. At South, we're going to utilize our entire cafeteria for a lunch period, as well as half of our large gym. Our cafeteria can hold just over 100 students. Half of our main gym can hold another 60, which is much more space than we actually need. So we should have plenty of room for all students. We've also identified that to safely distance students in the cafeteria, that we can have 2 students per table, and we will have seats identified at each one of those tables where students can sit and hopefully find a friend or two to be around them to hold that conversation and have some fun time together as well. But once lunches are complete, we will control the flow of students to the garbages and the tray drop off. So students will be directed on when to do that. So we, again, ensure that we don't have large grouping of students in certain areas. And then masks will be asked to be put back on once they've completed their food.
Okay, you said a magic word, lunch with my friend. So that brings us to the split, the alpha split. Can we talk about that right now? So more than one question, but this is middle school. So of course, a question is, but my best friend is in the other part of the alphabet. Am I really going to have to go on opposite days?
That's a great question, and unfortunately, it's a really hard topic to navigate. Most likely, yes. We are going to be asking students to build new relationships, and we will be creating routines and opportunities to help students develop those relationships. Our secondary team of administrators is putting together some guidelines about how and when we would make those exceptions. Truly, the exceptions that we're able to make are balanced around class size, transportation routes, siblings with different last names, and then any extenuating circumstances such as a student who might be experiencing homelessness or transitional housing and is living with another friend, and so really fairly extreme circumstances. And I've got 2 kids myself. And they have very good friends who are unable to come on the same days as they are. And so I'm hearing it as a mom. And so I hear you, I get it. I get it. You know, it's hard on our kids, and it's hard as parents to process the worry that, well, this is my child's person, you know, who are they going to sit with? They're going to be sad. And I don't minimize that. Our administrators don't minimize that. But we also know that the safety constraints of our class sizes are very real, as are the constraints of our buses. In the hybrid option that our school board approved for us, the governor has said we can have 50% capacity and no more. So it's not us deciding. It's not us thinking, well, it's okay, we could slide a few more in. It's actually the executive order that this is our limit. And even if it weren't, we of course hold the responsibility of the safety of our staff and our students as our highest priority. So we had an outside architectural expert tell us how many students in what can be in or how many adults and students, right? We know the teachers and paras might be there, can be in any space throughout our entire middle school. So every classroom is to the person. The furniture configuration is laid out for maximum safety. And we have to follow that. We know that people will want exceptions to be made, and of course we'll have the process with this is how and why we'll make exceptions, and so people are welcome to submit that, but we have truly very little flexibility in those offerings or the ability to make that change.
And then just a follow-up, will the AB be consistent So a couple of questions on this. Will it always be Monday, Wednesday, or Tuesday, Thursday, or will you alternate?
We will not alternate. It will be Monday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Thursday for the entire year. We have a schedule, so families could say, you know, way out into April or May, what day will on April 16th, if that's a Monday through Friday, will my child be in school or not? And so we have that mapped out for the entire year.
And just real quickly, Lori, because I'm still getting some questions from some Kennedy parents that are thinking that this is not the same information for them. Can you clarify?
If I will double check with Anna, Ms. Wilhite, to make sure that I'm giving accurate information for Kennedy. Thank you. In terms of cleaning routines, we just want to assure you that we will be cleaning high-touch surfaces throughout the day. So doorknobs, door handles, light switches. We will be deep cleaning every evening, as I said, and then we will be cleaning the surfaces in the classroom between each class. What I believe our expectation is going to be is that our entire classroom community supports our efforts in keeping those surfaces clean. And so we will be working with our students and our staff to make sure that all of us are taking responsibility for that. And Lori, would you please talk with us a little bit about those high contact, high isolation courses? So kind of weird language I use, but Phy-Ed, band, choir. Can you talk to us a little bit about how we'll make sure students and staff are safe there?
Absolutely. And as Lori mentioned earlier, our student and staff safety is our #1 concern. And we have done a lot of research around this area. We have reached out, we've read the recommendations that have come from the Minnesota Department of Education, from CDC. I have spent time with local experts at the collegiate level. And what we're doing in terms of Phy-Ed, and our teachers are the experts in this area, so consulting with them very closely. What we're checking on are, everything from what types of materials are considered higher risk materials. So cloth mallets versus other mallets. We are looking into all of those details to ensure that we can clean any of the materials that we're using. Our teachers are looking at how they can revise their lessons so that portions, the activities that need to be done in person can be done, and some of the other activities and some of the practice pieces can be done at home with videos sent to teachers to show the actual application. Our music teachers at the secondary level have put together a very detailed list based on several research articles that they have read that we have confirmed around some of the materials that we need in our band classes and in our choir classes. We do know that for all of those classes, we do need to maintain that social distance of 6 feet. And the experts that we have consulted have said that that 6 feet is the key for any of those areas that have the higher exhalation parts to it. So we will be getting information out to all of our music teachers, all of our Phy-Ed teachers, and all of our art teachers regarding those recommendations and considerations.
Thank you. I did just get a hold of Miss Wilhite. She is with her family at a pre-scheduled family event. So she sends her regrets, but she did let me know, and I'm not sure quite what families were thinking was different. She did let me know that Kennedy will be on a 3-period day, just like North and South. The A-B rotation is the same. That she said that the middle school is really mirroring what North and South are doing, just starting earlier. But if there's a specific question, please feel free to send that to Tammy and I will get clarification. Adam Holm. Adam Holm is our Executive Director of Community Education, as he's shared, and he's also responsible for activities, and he's going to talk with us a little bit about the Minnesota State High School League rules and how that impacts middle level activities for the fall.
Yeah, we're so excited to be able to keep our students busy once the bell rings. I'm very, very impressed in watching Mr. Nutter, Heitkamp, and Principal Will Height as they created programming for students after school with social distancing in mind, increased soccer skills. But we're going to have 12 activities in swimming, tennis, and cross country. And that will be at the high school, and then there'll be a bus. So when the bell rings, the students can work with their team and get on a bus and go over to their high school, and they'll participate there. But soccer, when they're in school, they'll compete on the days they're there. And the three principals worked out a nice little schedule for that in conjunction with the activities coordinator, Mr. Eisenreich. So there'll be a lot of things, not only athletic-wise, Minnesota State High School, but they're going to have some fine arts opportunities for them as well. With the number one key is safety, learning, and having fun. And the middle school will have transportation home that the principals will be able to send out at a later date once they see who signs up, and so that they can schedule that to make sure we efficiently and safely get our students home on the days that they're in school. So if you're at home and it's a day, and please don't come up to the school thinking you can participate. You're going to be on a team with students in school that day.
Lori, I've had some health COVID related questions come up, which is kind of a circle back. Are you okay with that at this time?
Sure.
Okay, great. Some of them are very specific to what happens if. So one question is about school closure. And another question is if a child, we talked about symptoms earlier, if a child is sent home because they have the fever and whatever symptom, does that automatically mean that when the siblings come home that day, that the siblings stay home as well?
Thank you. Those are great questions. It's such a complicated thing for all of us to get our heads around. Not being a medical expert, I can say that we have partnered with medical experts to make our decisions around this information. If a student, let me tackle the last one. If a student is coming home with a fever and symptoms that are related to COVID, which it seems like encompasses almost everything at this point, then yes, unfortunately, it would mean that we would ask the siblings to stay home. The CDC is changing their guidance. For a while we had heard 14 days, we had heard 10 days, and so we have not published our flow chart for what happens in the event of a student or family is experiencing the symptoms. We have not distributed that to all of our families yet, but we will. But at minimum, it would be a 10-day quarantine period, and the maximum I've seen is 14 days. The great news is that, as Lori described, our learning and teaching is happening through an online platform. And so if students are feeling well enough, they can absolutely still participate in the learning activities throughout the day. They can still be marked for attendance. And really, hopefully, our students and families aren't getting seriously ill and are able to keep up with the learning that's happening, and even partnering and interacting with their friends through the online courses. In terms of school closure, I believe that was the other question. We have a matrix, again, that we partnered with health officials here that really lays out in terms of the number of students or staff that are who have been officially diagnosed with a COVID case, and in terms of how many students and how many cases are happening in our environment or in our community, it walks us through how often we would need to close the school, for how long. And so it very well could be that if there were a confirmed case of 5 people, say, at one of our middle schools, that we would potentially need to close that school, and then for 72 hours. And these are examples. Our matrix is actually laid out. I just don't have it here in front of me, and we will be posting that. We shared it with the school board last evening. So it is available there. And if it's not on our website, it will be soon, along with the flow chart to help students, families, and staff decide when they need to be home, when it's safe to come to our schools.
Couple quicker ones, I think. We talked about family screening with their children at home. And then we talked about how they will be screened when they arrive to school or when they get off the bus. A follow-up question on that, will a second temperature be taken in the afternoon?
It will not. We will encourage our students, if they're feeling ill in any way, to report to the nurses area. We do have separate rooms for students who maybe say just need a med check or twisted their ankle, heaven forbid, but twisted their ankle going down the stairs. We have a separate space for health-related needs like that versus health-related needs that are related to COVID or to temperatures. So we're really trying to keep those separate to keep our community safe. But we don't have the capacity to screen a second time. Unfortunately, at middle school, our students are, I'm not saying they're fully cognizant. I know they're impulsive and they're excited about what's happening during the day, but it might be a little bit easier for them to start to self-diagnose the need to go to the nurse.
And will there ever be COVID testing at school?
At this time, there will not. We don't have any plans for COVID testing at school. I know that there is even a limited capacity in our communities, and so the state has not provided that resource for us at this time.
And I'm sorry, one more popped up. Is this also true? We're talking about the quarantine, the matrix, and all of the protocols we have in place. This is also true for if a staff tests positive as well, correct?
Absolutely, yes. All right. These are great questions. We just wanted to show you, I know you've received this information, it's on the websites, but the back to school events, we've got device pickup happening now. Joel or Brian, is there anything, or APs who are on, anything you'd like to add about device pickup and perhaps insurance forms?
Yeah, I would just add one thing. So as you can see here on the screen, and I don't know how clear it is for you, but we'll have 2 days at North, August 25th and 26th for device pickup. And on the 25th, specifically from 10 until 2, we're also doing medication drop-off. So any families that have children that need to take medicine throughout the day or need to have emergency medicine, EpiPens, things like that in the health office, we would ask that you try to make arrangements to drop those medications off on August 25th between 10 and 2 at North. And those times might be different at South.
Yeah, thank you. The med drop-off at South will take place on August 25th from 2 to 6. 2 to 6 p.m. our nurse will be available for med drop-off. I would also like to mention that if anyone had items that were left over from last year, those items would also be available during device pickup. We've got them all ready to go for anyone that still wants those items that got left behind. We've been safely storing them for you all summer long. And if anyone happens to have something they want, please just make note of that and mention it to one of our folks that are helping with for device pickup, and we will run and gather those items and gladly send them home with you.
And I will jump in here and say that Kennedy's device pickup information is on the district website, and I'm sure it's on Kennedy's website as well.
Yes, and it is at the top line, though. Again, it is hard to read. And those of you, we will talk about Distance Learning Academy shortly, but if you are signing up for the Distance Learning Academy, you can still pick up your device from your assigned homeschool. Please, if you're assigned to go to North as a rising 6th grader, then we would ask you to pick up your device from North, the same from South or from Kennedy. And of course, if it's possible, we would ask that you please complete your forms online through the family portal prior to arriving. Insurance is a great deal. And we know middle schoolers sometimes tend to, like all of us, tend to drop or lose or be distracted and some accidents happen. So we strongly encourage that if it's possible for your family. Other back to school events are family conferences, and for this audience, 6th grade orientation. Principals, anything you'd like to add or talk about that?
I don't have anything specific. There will be more information coming out to our families in the next week about sign up for these conferences. It will take place through Skyward for signing up for a time to meet virtually with your child's advisor. Those families that are 7th and 8th grade families, you experienced our family conferences last year in person. This year we're trying to do something similar, but it will be virtual. So you will set up a time in Skyward Family with your student's advisor. You'll get instructions on doing that in the coming weeks. Also for the North families, in my newsletter tomorrow, you will get some additional information as well.
And there were some questions about open house / conferences, especially from 6th grade parents who were saying, but my child's never even seen this school. Are these really virtual? Don't I get to come in? Can you address that?
I would encourage, at least from South's perspective, in our family newsletter that's gone out twice monthly all summer, and now we've started weekly again. There is a virtual tour. Last spring, I took students on a 45-minute walk around South and showed them all the highlights and tried to give them some tips and tricks along the way. So those links are there. We'll make sure they're easy to find on the South webpage, on the main page as well. But those are all ways that we encourage to try and get a better view before that first day in the building.
And we have a similar virtual tour at North, and I will make sure I get the link from Heather, and we'll include that link in our family newsletter tomorrow too. And so students that didn't get a chance to see our virtual tour in the spring will get to see it now.
And now I've got a couple circle backs, if I could do that briefly. I know we're getting close here on time. It's going to device deployment. Is this for all students? Or if you have a computer at home, are you supposed to use it?
It's for all students. We want all of our students to come get one of our district devices, please.
And then a couple of the same question. What if I can't make pickup times and days?
So after our 25th and 26th pickup dates, we will figure out how many people have not picked up their devices, and we will likely schedule one more opportunity for families to come in and pick those devices up, and we'll send that communication specifically to those families. There will probably still be instances where there are some families that can't come in. Those families will ask you to coordinate with us on an individual basis, and you can do that through me or through Miss Ebnett. We also have a new assistant principal this year at North, Mr. Sininger. And so if you coordinate with one of us or your child's counselor, we'll make sure that we have your device available at a time that's convenient for you. Worst case scenario is you'll get it when school starts on the first in-person day, whether it be an A or a B day, but we would like for your student to have it well before school starts, especially if you're a 6th grader and that first day is going to be all virtual.
And there's a really good question. What kind of device does my middle schooler get?
I'll speak to that one. Middle schoolers are getting a great deal. We've been an iPad school for a really long time, both North and South. And this year, all students are getting a brand new Chromebook. Device mimics a laptop and an iPad at the same time. So it has a touch screen, has the ability to function very much like an iPad, while at the same time has a built-in keyboard and can function like a laptop. And so students will receive that Chromebook at both schools. They'll also receive a document or a sheet of paper that has all of their logins, all of their passwords for all the different pieces that we will use technology-wise throughout the course of the year. And essentially, a student would just need to log into that Chromebook with their Google Apps account, email address, and password, and they'd have access to Google, the internet, and all the different documents that we use throughout the year.
And that does pertain to Kennedy families as well, North, South, and Kennedy, a whole new refresh. So Distance Learning Academy, I know we've got lots of questions about Distance Learning Academy. So Lori and I are going to tag team this one. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the more operational things and ask Lori to talk about some of the instructional things. As we said, device pickup should happen at your home school at their assigned times. Meals will be provided to our Distance Learning Academy students. Right now, we're expecting them to be a grab and go at sites around town, and we will update families on that later this week. School photos, of course, our students are welcome to come get school photos in their home schools, but we know that medically some students might not be able to make that happen. And so that's something that we are working on, if we can find a different location where it's a little bit potentially safer. But at this time, we don't have that sorted out. Fortunately, at our middle schools, we could, if worst comes to worst, we will carry over school pictures as we do for students who are absent for photos. Activities, I know Adam spoke to us about activities, and of course we encourage our Distance Learning Academy students to participate. We will, if you're going to sign up, we will of course need students screened before they are participating, and they'd be assigned to either an A day or a B day. They would not participate 4 days a week. And unfortunately, we do not have transportation available for students who are in distance learning to get to North or South or Kennedy or the high schools. Our buses are strained, making sure that we're delivering meals and getting students to and from. Conferences will be individual conferences, much like you heard described, and the process for signing up will be the same through Skyward, and we will make sure that you have every opportunity that we offer at our brick and mortar middles, because this is an exciting new learning community. And I'm going to ask Lori if she would talk a little bit about instruction, about what that will look like.
And I just have to say, I am really excited to have Heather as our administrator overseeing this. Heather will be working with the staff and with the students, because we want our students to feel like they are a community in the Distance Learning Academy. So although they'll stay aligned with either North, South, or Kennedy, they will also be part of the Distance Learning Academy family. So Heather will be reaching out to all of our families real soon. We are working right now on the schedules now that all of our registrations are in. Our classes in Distance Learning Academy will be taught by our own teachers. So it is not an online option where we have teachers who are not part of our district. It will be District 742 teachers teaching the classes. Our classes will have the same schedule where they'll have the 3 classes each day. Trying to think of what else to tell you. They will use the same resources that we have, the same curricular resources. Our teachers in Distance Learning Academy will receive some additional training on best practices in teaching virtually and engaging our students. We're looking at our students being able to think deeply and learn carefully. In terms of course offerings, we will make sure that all of our core contents are offered. We're looking at registrations right now and developing the schedules for our students to still be able to participate in allied arts. We're just really excited to be able to offer this option for our families this year.
So a couple of follow-up questions for you both. One of them touches on what you just said, Lori, which is schedule. What does a Distance Learning Academy schedule look like? Can you address that?
Yep, as I mentioned, it will still have the 3 classes each day. So 3 on Monday and Wednesday, and 3 different classes on Tuesday and Thursday. We do not expect students to be sitting on their device for the entire day. So our students will have some times where they will log in with their teacher and with their class, and they'll have other times where they will be working on assignments. They may be working in small groups and come back together as a whole group. But throughout the day, you can expect that they will have contact with their teacher for each of the courses. It may be at times a video similar to the spring. However, we do want our teachers and our students connecting daily. So we know that those relationship pieces are so key, especially at middle school. So you can expect that they will have things that they're doing with their teacher, with their class, and they'll have other times throughout the day where they will be working on projects and assignments at their own speed.
Okay, and $1 million question is, what if I miss the deadline and I want to enroll my child in Distance Learning Academy?
We will still accept registrations if you get it to us by tomorrow. Our staffing is extremely complicated. It impacts the Distance Learning Academy. It impacts our brick and mortar schools. And of course, our teachers sometimes share 612. And so it's in across different buildings. And so we as much as we would like to be able to allow families to transition and provide as much flexibility as we can, we really need our families to give us an answer by tomorrow. You can do that by either emailing me, laurie.putnam@isd742. You can email the Welcome Center and we will accept those. For families who miss that point as of tomorrow, or if they are asking to make a change of the trimester, we will follow our in-district transfer process that was established by our school board. Like when families are asking to transition between other schools, they have to meet a criteria laid out by the board. And we'll develop specific criteria for these transfers, and those would be approved by me in conjunction with the school principal, because we have to make sure, again, that we are maintaining class sizes that provide safety and maintain a high rigor instructional experience.
Thank you. This, I know we are almost at our time limit, but this question, Ryan Cox, are you on? He's not. Okay. I'm aware of this, so I will try to address it. There is a question and that just popped up that says that they're having trouble with RevTrack. And I'm sure that this probably is in conjunction, sorry, I turned myself off. It's probably in conjunction with getting insurance on your device, for example. And oh, Ryan, you're back. Yay. Did you hear what the question is? Oh, okay. This is the issue about RevTrack not working for the insurance, and it's the issue with the Distance Learning Academy and how those students are being coded. And it sounded to me earlier that we knew we had a problem, but they'll be a fix by tomorrow, maybe. Can you address that?
Sure. So we're working on that piece right now within the systems itself, because it ends up becoming in some ways a tool within a tool. So there are pieces that are pulled out of Skyward and then put into a new canister, so to speak. And so we are finishing that programming here. Hopefully by tomorrow we'll have more answers. But those movements will be taking place as soon as possible, and then students will be able to, or families will be able to log in and take care of their forms and fees as needed.
Thank you. I'll give it back to you, Lori.
We are at the end of our presentation, but we've got a couple minutes left. If there are questions, we'd be happy to take those.
Back to Distance Learning Academy. Is there a way that you get confirmation that you're in?
Boy, that is a fabulous question. Lori Post, did you have something you want to add there?
I was going to say, everybody who registered for Distance Learning Academy is part of Distance Learning Academy. And I know that Heather and her team will be sending out some communications soon, but if you registered, you can assume that you are part of it.
Thank you. For Adam Home, there were a few really specific activities questions. So if I want to check into what about this sport, and it's specific to my child, who might they reach out to?
Yep. So if it's a middle school program that they're interested in, they can email Charlie Eisenreich. He's the middle school activities director. Or they can also reach out if they're an Apollo student, they'd reach out to Peter Hammerlink. And if you're going to go to tech, you'd reach out to David Langeroux. And all those emails are on the district website, but they can answer specific questions.
And a clarification, Adam, or maybe just a restatement. If you're involved in activities, and I think they mean sports, is it 5 days?
No, middle school activities participate on the day you're in school only. So if you're an A-day student, you only have middle school activities on A-day, and if you're a B-day student, you only have activities on B-day. With the exception, there might be one special day, but the principals and ADs would get that information out in plenty of time. But no, they only go on the days they're in school.
And one last quick question for you. What about transportation if you're in activities on days that you're not in person?
Yeah, so you don't have any middle school activities on the days you're not in person. So you wouldn't be in school. You don't come to activities. You only come to activities when you're in school. Now, if you're a high school league, if you're part of the high school league programming, cross country, swimming, and girls tennis, if you make one of those teams, there's 7-12, it's your responsibility to get yourself there and home on days you're not in school. But if there's school, there's a bus from North or Kennedy over to Apollo and from South over to Tech. But you'd want to make sure you talk to your coach ahead of time and they can explain all that information to you so it's very clear when school starts what you need to do.
Thank you.
I apologize. Thank you so much to our families for joining us this evening, and to all of our building and district leaders who were part of this as well. We do have a incredibly robust, thorough back to school website, and so we sure encourage you to check out our back to school family guide, our FAQs that are updated frequently, and of course we have another middle level town hall next Monday. If you want to join us yet again, we welcome you back. So thank you very much, and thank you for your engagement with all of us and for your patience as we've navigated these uncharted waters. And we are so looking forward to having your scholar back, to welcoming you back, and thank you for being part of this amazing district. We appreciate you. Wish you a good evening.